Portal is a game that was memed to death in the late 2000s. Every forum had someone with the cake as a lie in their bio, every meme page had thinking with portals written somewhere, and for some reason I still know every single word to Still Alive.
What's still alive?
GLaDOS, but you don't find that out until the second game.
I mean, what is still alive?
Oh, it's a song sung by GLaDOS at the end of the game to let you know that she's still alive.
The Valve Easter eggs were deeper than that. Is the song at least vague?
The title of the song is Still Alive. Portal is a puzzle platform game created by Valve that originally came bundled in the Orange Box, which released in 2007. The Orange Box was a collection of games created by Valve that included Half-Life 2, Team Fortress 2, and Portal. The collection was released on Xbox 360 in 2007, but that's not actually where I originally played it. There was a standalone Portal game called Portal Still Alive, which was released on the Xbox Live Arcade. This is when I actually got my hands on the game, as a friend of mine told me I had to play it or I was missing out. Well, I was missing out for 4 years because I didn't play Portal until 2011.
So that means you got to the memes late.
The cake was still alive when I got to it. Portal was very well received by fans and critics alike. The game had such a unique feel to it and played like nothing else at the time. Now, it was a puzzle game, but that doesn't really do it justice. It was a lot more than what the game initially presented. Now let's talk about the history of Portal. The game is an unofficial successor to Nebula Drop, a game created by DigiPen Institute of Technology students. Valve saw the game and loved it so much that they hired many of the original team members to make the new game.
That'd be really awkward to be the one guy that wasn't hired.
Yeah, we want everyone from this team except, Todd. Sorry, Todd, maybe Bethesda will take you. I hear they're fine with incomplete work. After being hired, the team was immediately set to work making a game using the Portal mechanics from the previous title. The game underwent a few changes, like changing the location from a medieval dungeon to a testing facility. The design was done to bring minimalism to the puzzles, as well as the assets that the team would have to create. This allowed for the team to focus on the mechanics of the game, more so than the world around them. Early playtesters loved the game, but found that it lacked motivation. Sure, using the portal gun was amazing, and clearing the various puzzles was fun, but why was the character doing this? Prior to this, no one had really put a thought forward about what the game's plot would be, instead focusing all their attention on the game itself, and then building the plot around the gameplay. The narrative drive of the character was then decided. It would be cake. Yeah, that's real. The team decided that most people like cake, and that would be enough of an emotional drive to get most players from point A to point B. With cake as the character motive, the team decided to expand from there. The team worked with a writer from the Half-Life team, and at some point came to the conclusion that they should base the game in the same universe as Half-Life. This allowed the team to reuse art assets from Half-Life and would mean they wouldn't have to create everything from scratch. Early on, the team had decided that they wanted an AI that leads the player through the puzzle test chambers, and GLaDOS was born. Or her real name, Genetic Lifeform and Disk Operating System. But GLaDOS just rolls off the tongue better. GLaDOS would lead the player character named Chell through the different puzzles in the game. Though she wasn't just an AI that would lead you around. No, she had a snarky personality. Also kind of murderous tendencies.
Please note that we have added a consequence for failure. Any contact with the chamber floor will result in an unsatisfactory mark on your official testing record, followed by death. Good luck.
GLaDOS would chide the player the whole way with demoralizing jokes and remarks. Everything from calling Chell fat in so many words, to saying how slightly below average intelligence she is. GLaDOS' remarks came off as mean, but funny in a way.
The Enrichment Center promises to always provide a safe testing environment. In dangerous testing environments, the Enrichment Center promises to always provide useful advice. For instance, the floor here will kill you. Try to avoid it.
Chell, on the other hand, is a silent protagonist. She's just a vessel players can project themselves onto. She isn't an interesting character because she's not really a character at all. The only bit of personality we know about her is that she is stubborn.
Which I think was the only trait of the Undertale main character.
I'm sensing a theme here.
It's a theme that video game developers create silent protagonists as a cheap way to get people to project themselves onto the characters, as a cheap way to invest them in their narrative and worlds.
No, I was going to say they're easier to relate to.
Same thing.
I think Chell and GLaDOS could have had an interesting back and forth dynamic, but the decision to leave her as a silent protagonist was still fine. Thematically, it still works just as well, especially since the portrayal of GLaDOS was done so well. She was able to carry the narrative all by herself. The game starts with Chell waking up in a room called the Relaxation Chamber, with just a radio and a bed. You immediately get GLaDOS talking to you over the sound of the music playing from your radio. GLaDOS opens the portal and off you are to your first test. The puzzles start off pretty simple. You just move a few cubes, place them on some buttons, then walk to the next area. The game only has 19 puzzles, so they do ramp up pretty quickly once you've actually gotten the portal gun. Now the portal gun is a handheld device that lives very much up to its name. It shoots 2 different colored portals that allow you to create different pathways through each test chamber. You shoot the blue laser at a wall and you create an oval, and then shoot the orange laser at another wall and you create a portal between the 2 ovals. This has created one of the most creative, interesting, and fun gameplay loops that I've ever played. The portal gun gives you so many options for how you can complete any given level. Though most of the test chambers have pretty obvious ways of completing them, you can still try and complete them however you see fit. The game's mechanics are explained in a short trailer for the game in which GLaDOS tells the player the purpose of the portal gun and the testing chambers. She explains how momentum works and how you have to think outside the box to complete some of the challenges they have for you. This is also where one of the internet's earliest favorite memes comes from.
Now you're thinking with portals.
Portal was so well received by fans and critics that it's considered one of the greatest games of all time, and often places highly in people's top 20 games of all time lists. It was stated in 2011 that it sold over 4 million copies, and was easily one of Valve's highest selling games of all time. The critical reception of the game was apparent as it received very high scores from reviewers, with the only real complaint most had being with its length. The game was rather short. I beat it in 2 hours with my most recent playthrough. I only played through the main game and didn't touch the extras at all. The game is incredibly short, even for the time it was released. It did come with a few other games, so it wasn't the biggest issue. Honestly, I thought the short nature of the game made it more memorable, as I could finish it in a sitting if I really wanted to.
Game length doesn't matter.
Brother, you play JRPGs.
Exactly, game length doesn't matter. Once you hit that 80th hour, you know the game's just getting good.
Let's talk about the story. Well, what there is for the story. The game stars Chell as she makes her way through the Aperture Science testing facility. The only other character in the game is GLaDOS, and she really just leads Chell from test chamber to test chamber. As you play the game, you'll notice that GLaDOS doesn't really seem entirely genuine. At first, her dry humor and tone could be seen as just a really awkward AI, trying, but not really greatly so, to help the player. It doesn't take long for you to start noticing the weird things she says, though. Like, she tells you that she'll stop enhancing the truth, or lying, I guess. She makes more than just snide remarks at you as you complete each test with ease. Or not, I'm really bad at puzzle games. As you reach test chamber 11, the game takes a little more of a darker turn. GLaDOS gets a little meaner. She talks about how you can get harmed while doing tests, and that's fine as it's all for science. By the time you hit 15, she's bringing up the cake that you'll get after completing the tests. By now I'm pretty sure the internet has memed this to death, but the cake is a lie with such a massive meme back in the day. It was literally used everywhere. It was on shirts, logos, stickers, coffee mugs, and being said by every gamer friend you had. Portal had such a profound effect on the internet. It's probably the first time a game had so far outlived its gameplay and story with just how popular the memes were. It's not even talking about the companion cube. The companion cube is a cube with a heart on it that GLaDOS gives to the player in order to complete a puzzle. The cube was so innocuous that it really shouldn't have had an effect on the player whatsoever, but everyone on the internet loved this tiny cube. It became a meme too, and was likely the most merchandised item from the entire game. The companion cube has probably sold more merchandise than the game has sold copies.
You know what? This would look great next to my anime figurines.
Before e-girls were a thing, every gamer girl at the time had a companion cube on their desk. They were seen in the backgrounds of every gaming YouTube video, and fan art was seen on pretty much every forum. The companion cube outlived its very short existence in the game. The fans fell deeply in love with it, and the worst part is, GLaDOS makes you destroy it. You carry it from one end of the chamber to the next, then she makes you incinerate it before you can proceed. It was kind of sad, even if it was just a cube. Even short-lived, this cube won the hearts of players everywhere and would become the most iconic part of Portal's lore and story. On Test Chamber 16 is where the game kinda takes a bit of a creepy turn. There's a section you can sneak into behind some protruding walls, and if you do, you'll find a decaying looking area. It looks like a maintenance area that just hasn't been used in a long time. If you venture in a little deeper, you'll see crazy writing all over the walls. Tally marks showing a person had clearly been living inside the walls of the testing facility, and for a very long time. The cake is a lie is written everywhere, and this is the creepy shift in tone that the game was alluring to before. These little areas are known as Ratman dens. They were occupied by a character named Doug Ratman, a former scientist at Aperture Labs. He escaped the testing chambers and lived for a while inside the walls, where he slowly went insane. The story of the game is kinda complex as it relates to the Half-Life series, but I can give a quick summary before doing a full dive when I cover the sequel. Aperture Labs was created by a man named Cave Johnson, a character you'll meet in the sequel. He started the company by making shower curtains for the military before deciding he wanted to do more. Johnson later opened the science division where the portal gun was created. Not sure how it was expected to help their shower curtain business, but it was funded. The lab would also go on to create GLaDOS, an AI that was designed to help the team members with their work. GLaDOS went rogue twice, and the second time ended up killing all the scientists at the lab. She would then start running people through the tests with the portal gun and killing most of them in the process. That brings us to the beginning of the game. Ratman actually pushed Chell's name to the top of the list for test subjects, knowing that her stubbornness would be too much for GLaDOS. As Chell completed the tests with ease, GLaDOS was realizing how much of an adversary she was turning out to be. The tests would have to be harder, incorporating these evil but cute turret robots. They were designed for the military, but for some reason have a chibi GLaDOS voice. They would say sad and funny phrases after you beat them, but only after a short cry of defeat. I love these turrets way more than the companion cube, though both stick out to me as this game doesn't have a lot of characters to latch onto. Once Chell reaches the last test chamber, it turns out she is being sent straight into an incinerator with the portal gun. Thinking fast, she escapes through some back tunnels. GLaDOS gets very mad and starts taunting the player much more as you make your way through the abandoned office buildings.
Didn't we have some fun, though? Remember when the platform was sliding into the fire pit and I said goodbye, and you were like, no word. And then I was all, we pretended we were going to murder you. That was great.
There are red arrows everywhere showing you where to go, likely left there by Ratman. Once you've gone through all the back office rooms, you'll finally come to GLaDOS' chamber. She's an AI dangling from the ceiling. She taunts you some more before you start the final fight by destroying her personality cores that fall off her every time she's hit with a missile. The final fight isn't that bad, even with GLaDOS flooding the chamber with deadly neurotoxin to try and stop Chell from destroying her. The game ends with you and GLaDOS being sucked to the surface of the building, where the player then appears to be knocked unconscious and laying in the debris of the building. Chell is then dragged off by who knows what before the game cuts to black. Finally, you get to the credits. Now, if you thought this game was done with how meme-worthy it was, well, just listen to this.
But there's no sense crying over every mistake. You just keep on trying till you run out of cake. And the science gets done and you make a neat gun for the people who are still alive.
The final song of the game, Still Alive, is possibly the best thing to come out of this game. It's sung by GLaDOS and is super catchy and great. It was so popular you couldn't go to a convention without hearing a rendition sung by a crowd. The song also hints at the fact that a sequel was in the works. Of course, it doesn't take a super sleuth to solve that Easter egg. The title makes it pretty obvious. Now, Portal is an amazing game, but what really drew me into it was how empty, claustrophobic, and creepy everything in the game was. I love games that have hidden lore and creepy undertones. In fact, a ton of my favorite games and series of all time usually do. There's just something about a game being creepy when it's not a horror game. The test chambers all have this empty lab feeling that's quite isolating. It's just you, GLaDOS, and the tests you have to complete. There's hardly any music, just ambient sound and the occasional joke from GLaDOS to break the sound of your footsteps. This game always gave me a creepy vibe when I would play it. A lot of empty space that looked like it was used at one point for something that the company must have thought was very important. Now all the test areas are empty and the only one around is Chell. The ambient music intensified this empty feeling. The game was so unsettling with its atmosphere, game design, and sound design. This is even more so with the fact that the first time I played it, I was completely alone. I went to a friend's house to stay the night, but he got called into work, so I was alone for a while. I booted up his Xbox 360 and watched some old creepypasta videos for a little while before getting a little creeped out by the imagery and music of some of them. I decided I would settle down with some games. Remembering how I had been told to play Portal, I decided it was finally time since he owned it. I started the game and was immediately pleased with the gameplay and overall aesthetic, but soon found the game wasn't really going to settle me down. The creepy undertones of the game were great and really brought a little extra to some of the simple puzzle gameplay. To add to the creepiness of the game, there were plenty of theories about its world and design. The obvious Ratman ones and how the companion cube might actually be created from dead test subjects, thanks MatPat. Early game theory was super good, guys, I promise. Quite possibly the darkest theory, though, was that GLaDOS was supposed to represent a woman tied upside down, bound and gagged. It was such a strange theory that had very little evidence, the only real evidence being that she does kind of look like a woman in that exact situation. So that's Portal, one of my favorite non-horror games of all time. It has such a creepy atmosphere, but the most fun gameplay from a puzzle game, especially at the time. The staying power of this game has proven itself as people still buy the merch, and I still see the occasional "the cake is a lie" dead meme around. The internet really loved this game, and when the internet loves something, it never truly dies. So should you play Portal in 2021? Yes, 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 you should. It is truly a good game, even compared to modern games, and even compared to its sequel, which I have to cover now. Probably get started on that. Remember, friends, the cake is only a lie if you let it be.